bossy, no charades. Payroll baddies, bring your fire, get paid.
Payroll baddies, payroll baddies, payroll baddies. Welcome.
And I'm the house.
Welcome back to another episode of Payroll Baddies. Thank you for all of our listeners, and thank you to our new listeners who are joining. And remember, Payroll Baddies, we're here for only one reason, to promote payroll out there and all the baddies out there who are making sure people are getting paid. So thank you. And also as a reminder, we are an SAP biased podcast. If you don't like it, Santa, what do we tell them? Get the fuck out. All right. So today we have a really, really exciting episode because we have a special guest. So as usual, all you baddies know how we introduce our guests. So here we go. Five style, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, hide your roadmaps and turn your amps to 11. Coming to the mic from the strategy team of SAP SuccessFactors, the man who turns whiteboards into weapons, PowerPoints into pain, and the future state diagrams into absolute chaos. By day, he's shaping the future of SAP SuccessFactors strategy. By night, shredding heavy metal riffs loud enough to scare legacy systems into retirement. If your project strategy sucks, he's here to fix it. If your release plans are a mess, he turns noise into music. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Shahzad Naseem.
Woo! Thank you. Thanks, Raj. And I'll say this, right? Forget the 15th or forget the 30th. Today is the payday. I am in the Payroll Baddies ring. So today is the actual payday.
You know, Raj, I got to add a couple words here, right? So look, I think a lot of the topic that Shazad's going to talk to us about today is about smart recruiting just because it's so top of mind right now. But he is through and through a true payroll baddie. He knows baddies. He knows, in fact, he has an extremely diverse background, right? He's been a consultant. He's configured it from the on-prem days. You know, he's demoed it, pre-sales, he's helped sell it, he's led the strategy. He is a payroll baddie. I know we might not be talking as much about that. We could probably have an entire separate episode on that. But he also had a lot to do with the whole SmartRecruiters acquisition. So I think it's a real treat to have him on here because he's going to have answers that almost no one else will.
So yeah, perfect. I can talk about SmartRecruiters for 2 days, but I can talk about payroll for 200 days.
Well, we're gonna hold you to that, Shazad. So this can't be your last time on this podcast. We're definitely gonna have you. We're definitely gonna have you, back because our listeners. We thought it would be important that since SmartRecruiters was such a big acquisition for SAP and in the SuccessFactors landscape, and who better to talk about that than you. So thank you again for being here.
And I know I'll be back because I have the privilege to have one of these. Calling out everybody who doesn't have one of these.
And you know what I appreciate about you, Shazad? That you don't forget your chains like somebody in this podcast who has forgotten it multiple times.
I know who
Shazad.
we're talking about.
And Shazad, when you're back, I think Raj made a little bit of an intro. You got to come back with a guitar and a little bit of a solo for all of us.
Let's do that. Let's figure that out.
And again, I know I did that intro, but maybe, again, Shazad, if you don't mind introducing yourself a little bit, just about a little bit about your background so our listeners get to know who you are. And please do touch on the music side a little bit because to me,
so
it was
the way I usually do it, so I am professionally a full-time musician. I play in a couple of death metal bands. Nice. And on the side, I work for SAP. SAP is what enables me to do music. That's basically the flow of everything that enables me to do music. So I always say that music, family, then the job, right? So everything that I do for SAP feeds into the two big things, right?
Love it.
Now,
and yet this dude still does more than a lot of other people. So
yeah. Privileged. I'm privileged. So like Imran said, majority of my career payroll was the thing that I did. Over 10 years, it was all about payroll. And I've had the privilege to have implemented payroll at some of the largest SAP customers. Aramco, ADNOC, British Petroleum, back in the day, BBC as well. So I have been to a lot of those customers. It was all about payroll. At that time, and I don't want to ditch the talent side of things, we were all about the core HR time and payroll. We were the system of record, system of operations, talent. We had some bit of it. If you guys remember, we used to have qualification catalog, which was at that time was the whole
HRP tables, baby.
thing. You can call it, you can call it competency, skills, or whatever name you want to give it. We already had it back in the day as well. So when we talk about skills, it's nothing new to SAP. We've been doing it for a long, long time. But for me personally, payroll and time were the two things that I've carried, or that have carried me.
There it is.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Let me ask one question, Shazad.
So before we go there, I've been with SAP 16 years, work as part of the SuccessFactors Product Strategy team under Dan Beck.
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, "Can we see more candidates?" Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard like 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
Yep. All right. So my first question is, I know we're going to talk about SmartRecruiter. Can you tell us what your role in that acquisition was? I know you probably had like an NDA in place for a while before it. So can you tell us like how intimately you were involved in that?
Okay. So I had the privilege to lead the whole business case from end to end, right? From the narrative of why SmartRecruiters, because we did evaluate other vendors in the market as well. So I had the privilege to sort of start that conversation, then build the whole thing from a perspective why, whether or not is the right decision for SAP, because it's not only about feature function, it's also about business, right? At the end of the day, we need to have business outcome, not only for us, for our customers as well. So to do that evaluation from the architecture perspective, from revenue perspective, from deployment perspective, because if you're going to customers, if you're going to be converting customers from existing recruiting to SmartRecruiters, what would it take? How much effort for a customer? What are we asking our customers? How much effort from our side, from migration tools building perspective, from migrating, lifting and shifting customers? So the whole thing, I was privileged to lead that till the very end. And now, luckily, since that the whole acquisition is now closed, we have a fantastic team led by Rebecca Carr, who is awesome, by the way. I don't know if you guys have had conversations with her. She is fabulous. All of her team is absolutely amazing. So since that is done, now they are taking the lead in executing the whole vision that we had. And now I am on new things that my boss wants me to do. Some exciting stuff coming up.
No, that's awesome, Shazad. Maybe a follow-up question. So as you guys were going through, I know you mentioned you had some competition that you had, and maybe we'll try not to poke you too much to kind of understand what those competitors were. But I guess what were kind of like maybe the one or two key things that stood out from the rest that made SmartRecruiters kind of that right acquisition?
Oh, that's an easy one. So it's important to understand the context why we had to do it, right? And If you look at the last 5 years, based on multiple analysts and research and everything, recruiting was the most invested space within HR, because when pandemic hit, we all know that this whole mass hiring started. Then after like 2-3 years, this whole mass resignation, the whole trend went up like this and then came down. So the amount of investment that went into recruiting specifically was much higher than the rest of HR. Because of that, the amount of innovation that came out, that completely changed the perspective of customers and the expectation. So if you look at the last 3, 4, 5 years, so many startups have come out, which kind of changes what customer was expecting from the large enterprise vendors. Because now we were going to deals where customer is talking to one of those smaller vendors. We're talking about all these bells and whistles and AI chatbot and candidate screening through AI and all of that. And then we walk in and say, oh, we've got this amazing solution, which is integrated business suite, which still holds a ton of value. But we were having kind of a difficult time competing against these vendors. So that was one of the triggers to ensure that we are able to deliver what the customers are expecting, right? So there are two ways with everything. Either you build it homegrown or you acquire something that is already proven in the market. Now, if you start building something homegrown, of course, it takes time, right? It takes X number of years. We've got thousands of customers. Being SAP, we need to be sure that whatever we are building is tested, can be deployed to these thousands of customers. And it's not for us, unlike other recruiting vendors, is different for us. We don't only deliver recruiting, we deliver recruiting that works in our talent suite. Not only that, it works in the SAP context, SuccessFactors context, and then works in the bigger SAP context. So the amount of rigor, integration, due diligence that has to go in that build thing would have taken quite a long time. So we started looking at different vendors, recruiting vendors, and I won't name names. We had quite a bit of conversations with other vendors. Some were our partners at that time, some were previous partners. Now, one thing that after going through the whole process, we've seen a lot of different pitches. You go to a new vendor, says, oh, we've got the best candidate chatbot. And then when you double click that chatbot, it turns out underneath, it's a hollow space. It's just a chatbot. These kind of hollow chatbots create a lot of compliance issue. There's a lot of risk. And we've seen those news in the market, why that happens, right? So for us, having that strong foundation of recruiting was important. In our term, we call it ATS. Having a very strong applicant tracking system, which is the baseline of everything, recruiting was the most important thing. And after doing the whole evaluation, SmartRecruiter ATS was completely unmatched. There was no specialized recruiting vendor that was offering the type of ATS that SmartRecruiter has. So while we keep talking about new things like Winston, the whole AI thing that we've brought in through SmartRecruiters, of course, that is what excites our customers. We also wanted to make sure that everything that we are doing on that top layer of AI through Winston is not feeding into a hollow system underneath it. So that strength of ATS with SmartRecruiter and the plan of Winston and whatever we are offering going forward. And there are a lot of things that we have in plan, which we will start learning about over the period of next 6 to 8 months, that we will be able to deliver so many things that other vendors will not be able to, only because of that strong base.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting is, as our customers and listeners kind of look at some of the prior history of SAP's acquisitions, a lot of times vendors are like in a race to say, hey, how can we grow really fast? But then sometimes, to your point, Shazad, they tend to lose the sight around compliance, security, data, all of those things. And I think for a lot of the prior acquisitions SAP has made, you guys have made it in a way where it's at the right time and addressing the right need, and customers kind of feel that trust and compliance versus, we've seen some of our competitors, that have been in the news recently for things like AI bias and some of those things, right? And I think, right now is the perfect time for SAP and SmartRecruiters to kind of take our customers to the next level in the recruiting journey. So super excited for that.
100%. And the reason I keep talking about that strong base and strong ATS is if you look at the amount of lawsuits and all the scandals that have come out in the last 3 to 5 years, it's because of that you're basically placing a flashy chatbot that doesn't necessarily understand the underlying process, because the underlying process is not strong enough. So having that ATS is what helps us drive that with the right compliance, the right policies.
When this news first came out, the first thing I did, and our PayrollBADIes listeners know how much we trust and really revere the Magic Quadrant, because it's such an important thing. You know what? I did go and check it out, and guess what? SmartRecruiters was on the top, so it was kind of interesting to see that. But again, I joke about the Magic Quadrant, obviously. But one thing that was very interesting after this news came out, talking to some prospective clients and other people, one thing that really stuck out to me. We were talking to somebody, and they said, "Hey, we had gone to our recruiters and asked them, out of all the ATS, all the recruiting systems out there, if you had to rank them, which one would you pick? Because that is worth a lot. That type of feedback." And they said SmartRecruiters by far was their number one choice. So again, kudos on obviously picking the right solution, obviously for all the other reasons that you just said, but just again, more anecdotal message back to you guys is, it definitely is, it's playing well in the market of how they perceive SmartRecruiters coming into SAP.
So I've got a funny story about that, right? As we were running this whole acquisition, it was under wrap, of course. Ton of NDAs, nobody was supposed to know and all of that. And one of our product area leads talking to one of our largest customers in North America, and we've got this whole deal for recruiting going on. So we were positioning SuccessFactors Recruiting with some other partners to come on top of SuccessFactors Recruiting to sort of give them the whole innovation with the ATS and everything. While during that deal, this product area lead had a chat with this customer, and guess what? SmartRecruiter was also in the deal, right? There was, and their CHRO and their head of recruiting said to that product area lead, "Why don't you guys buy something like SmartRecruiter? I mean, they are so great. We'd love to have that implemented, but because we are an end-to-end SAP shop, every time we think about SmartRecruiter, we get told by our larger organization that no, ideally we should go with SAP. So if you guys just buy that company, it'll make our lives easier." So she came back to me. She's like, funny. "Oh, I've just heard." I'm like, I wish we could say something to them, but at that time we were,
That's so funny.
Well,
the funny thing about that,
so many customers literally coming back to us right after that announcement saying, probably one of the best decisions SuccessFactors have made.
And I think the easier thing would have been, because you didn't have a commercial relationship with SmartRecruiters prior to that, right? No. If I remember correctly, they weren't on the App Store.
Were competitors.
So commercially, it would have been easier to probably acquire a vendor that's already on your App Store, but you actually looked at it beyond that and said, "Hey, what is truly the best fit for our organization?" And you skipped the easy way out, right? And actually looked at it
exactly the reason I said, right? So the partners that we had, or the vendors that we were working with them to fill a void which was more like at the top layer. Because we knew that we had a strong ATS, we were working with those specific vendors. And when we were evaluating all the vendors, we already knew that those vendors don't have a strong ATS. And that brings me back to the same conversation, right? Why SmartRecruiter? Because of that ATS, and those vendors didn't have that. Otherwise, it would have been much easier for us just to bring in a vendor. But had they had that strength of ATS. So
and keep RCM probably, right? And keep recruiting management, because that's probably what you would have had to do, right? Gio, go ahead. I think you're probably going to ask the same question.
I wanted to ask a question. I mean, I'm very excited about Smart Recruiters. First off, because I came from a recruitment consultant background. So for me, I mean, I even did a SAP recruiting back in the day on-premise.
Trader.
Old school. But I think...
not really payroll. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Putting my
fake
delivery...
PayrollBADie.
I wanted to ask, is there any love affair that's going to happen between Joule and Winston? Do you have some tea on that?
Look,
Winston and Joule sitting in a tree.
Okay, so here's what I can say, right? At some point, most likely, yes. But keep in mind, Joule will always have, there will always be some kind of a wall. Because if I look at Winston is a non-employee facing conversational AI.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Joule,
External
on
facing.
the other hand, has a very different purpose. Joule has a purpose of connecting the business suite and delivering an internal business process delivery AI assistant across. So if you look at just beyond the conversational AI, Joule is going to become the connector of all agents that SAP is delivering, right?
Got it.
So that's why I say, yes, there will be some connection at some point in time, but Winston will be holding on its own for as long as I've seen based on the roadmap, but because of the reason that it's external facing, right?
It's not a broken process.
So if I look at our vision, for example, Winston, and then Rebecca is going to talk about that going forward much more. If Winston stays on its own, there's a potential to deploy Winston on regardless of whatever that recruiting system underlying is, right? So we don't want to sort of blur those lines by bringing it into Joule, because as soon as you bring it into Joule, it then gets restricted within the SAP framework.
Maybe not. Just thinking for like internal candidate facing. I mean, global companies that do a lot of mobility internally. Looking at how there's going to be more integration coming out with Microsoft, right? Copilot and just thinking out loud. Just my brain starts thinking about where integrations.
But you know what? And maybe this could be another topic some other day, because I think at last Success Connect, I mean, and that, like, again, this is why, again, being SAP biased, but seeing how you guys are framing your AI framework is pretty cool, because you guys are very much supportive of the agent to agent framework too. So again, this is going to be that conversation that's going to come up everywhere, because there's going to be other technology a client is using. Maybe client has its own agent, where it all needs to work together in a nice framework. And that's where I think SAP is positioned truly in a really good place, because they built that from the ground up, in the sense of, we might not be we know we're going to be interacting with a lot of different agents in a lot of different capacity. So it has to all work together. How we surface that to an employee, to everything else, that can be discussed and debated, I think. So.
But I think, from a strategy perspective, I don't know if you guys have seen the recent strategy narrative that we are driving, right? And it's all driven based on the evolution of technology. So today you're looking at majority of the AI delivery through an embedded AI. So you've got the application already there, and then you start delivering an embedded AI. Tomorrow we are expecting, or we are actually building some new solutions, which we will unveil soon in due time. Todd, we are not going to talk about that. But they will be solutions who will be built natively for AI, right? So instead of having embedding the AI on top of the layer, you will build solution that will have AI already being surfaced as part of the native solution. Now that's not where it stops. Then we are going forward to a point where the end is that everything that you're talking about when it comes to AI agent is going to be headless. Application that is going to become irrelevant, right? In that case, if I look at that future, yes, Winston should be a completely separate on its own thing, right? For the most part. But never say never. I mean, of course, we will be delivering integrations with Joule with Copilot. So that plan stays as is. But in the longer term, we'd like Winston and even some of the other AI deliveries that we have across SAP to work as headless as
That's
possible.
awesome. So Shazad, I know your time is very limited with us. So, and again, I think we could talk about. Well, first of all, I'm surprised we could talk about non-payroll stuff for this long. But I guess
I'm surprised too.
We are capable of doing that. But what other things would you like to maybe throw out to our audience about the things that they should be excited about, or some things that are coming that they should be on the lookout for?
Okay, so the big thing, and I'm thinking if I should spoil what. So we've got a massive event coming up next month, which is what we call Go-to-Market.com, FCOM, or however you want to call it, where we are taking some of the new things and basically enabling our partners to deliver those things to our customer. When I say new things, we've so last year, I don't know if you recall, we delivered the new enterprise service management tool. So that is still sort of in the initial phase. We are going to further push that in the market starting next year. Go-to-Market.com is one of those platforms where we are talking more and more about that. But the big things that we have for next year, I mean, keep in mind, SAP is an enterprise software vendor. SuccessFactors is an enterprise HR software, right? How often do you hear an enterprise software vendor saying that we've got 3 brand new products coming within just 1 year, right? That's the next year that we're hoping for.
Organic products.
Organic too, not acquired.
Not acquired. Natively built new products, right? Some of these are very close to payroll. So we're talking about workforce scheduling, right? Next year, we've got workforce scheduling coming out completely end-to-end built by SAP. Then we've got BDC, Business Data Cloud. And amazingly, we've got the first release for SuccessFactors already out. By the end of the year, there's a whole roadmap to deliver majority of the SuccessFactors analytics as part of BDC. Again, keep in mind, here we are talking about over 2,800 out-of-the-box KPIs delivered for our customers. Literally plug and play. Not only that, all of those analytics will be available through Joule as well. So you can go to Joule, ask a question, and the Joule will give you insights through BDC. How amazing
the
is
analytics.
That?
It'll embed the analytics, right?
It'll embed the analytics in there. So some of these things that are coming out, then we are working towards other things, some of the payroll stuff. So we are working towards more. So we've talked about, you guys have talked about Explain My Payslip, right? So that's already out. We are talking about more payroll agents. And in due time, we will be releasing the roadmap for 2026. We are expecting at least 3 new payroll agents. Things like a payroll alert agent or think about compliance agent. So these are the things that we are almost finalizing from a payroll perspective. And the big idea that we have here is, and again, based on what we've heard from some of the large customers, every large customer that we've spoken to in the last few months is expecting autonomous payroll from some of these largest vendors. What does that autonomous payroll mean? Autonomous payroll is basically nothing else, just one single agent looking after your end-to-end payroll, working with multiple agents. Like I said, compliance agent, payslip agent, your alert agent, your configuration agent, integration agent, so that majority of your payroll execution process happens autonomously. That's the journey that we are starting in 26 on EC, Employee Central Payroll. And Employee Central Payroll is going to be the starter, and then we'll start delivering more and more payroll stuff. And I don't want to jump the gun here. During the SmartRecruiter process, we had to work with a lot of legal people in and outside of SAP. I've learned one thing. One word, which is the most important word, is gun jumping. Do not jump the gun and you'll be penalized. So I don't want to jump the gun here.
Well, we do appreciate you sharing some of that, but you have, since you cannot jump the gun, what you have to promise us is that when it comes out, you'll come on this podcast and announce and talk about it here and discuss it with
100%.
our audience first. Because there's, again, I think this autonomous payroll and all the agents, I think a lot of baddies out there who work in the payroll space and who are doing this day in, day out are very curious about this, right?
Yeah.
To me, and, the people who are, as we get to learn more about it, it's very strategic. It's actually going to help them be more strategic in their jobs and be, have a better experience. But it's how we frame it, right? So I think it'll be very exciting for you to come and talk about that when all this comes out.
Well,
this group will be the first one to know about it anyway.
I want to ask one question, Shazad, because I think it's important to call out that the orchestration of these agents, because if you look at the business suite that we're working with our customers with, it goes beyond, it goes before payroll to bring in the master data, and then it goes into finance and operations from the payroll data side after, post payroll processing. The orchestration of those agents, who does that fall on? Our customer or us?
It's on us at the end of the day.
That's right.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'll give you an example. And exactly what the point that you brought up, right? Let's talk about reconciliation between payroll and finance, right? So if I look at reconciliation, the three big reconciliation point is you've got the master data, you execute the payroll, which is the gross to net, and then you post it into finance. So you've got three sources of reconciliation: your HR system, your payroll system, and your finance system. Now, imagine the amount of time either the payroll admin or the finance administrator has to spend every cycle to ensure that all these three systems are reconciled. Everything that's happening between these three. Today, we do it through reports. And somebody has to take out the report, find the anomalies, and then go correct it. In some cases, for example, our solution gives you alerts, right? You still have to go resolve these alerts. You still have to be able to have a pop-up saying that there's an alert. Somebody has to look after it. And as humans, we miss it and there's a problem. And somebody calls up and says, I've not been paid correctly. Now imagine you've got agents working across these three reconciliation solutions, talking to each other, and before it pops to you, go resolve it. It already tries to resolve 90% plus of those reconciliation problems. How cool that would be. Yeah, so no payroll admin or finance admin would have to spend those weekends or nights to do year-end, month-end, period-end closing. They can go home at 5 p.m. How cool is that, right?
Yeah. Hey, I will say, Jesse, you're looking a little too quiet over there. I haven't heard your voice yet. You got to have at least one question for Shazad. Come on.
No, Jesse's coming off of being sick, so Jesse's just enjoying everybody else.
Jesse, did you not get the
Jesse,
message?
I can tell you one thing. I can tell you one thing. So I've one question that I keep hearing is, we've talked about SmartRecruiter. When can we sell it? Partners, sellers, all of them. You can sell it today. It's on the price list as of last week. So cool, right?
So, last week. Okay, this is new news right there. I do have, I think I know the answer, and I just don't want to leave it unsaid either, Shazad. Can you just confirm very clearly what this SmartRecruiters acquisition means for SuccessFactors Recruiting and SuccessFactors Onboarding as well? Just,
Yeah.
So there's
I think that's a fair question. So, look, SmartRecruiter is going to be our go-to recruiting solution in the future. Does that mean that you're shutting down SuccessFactors Recruiting today? No, right? There's a whole future plan and the roadmap of getting customers from SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting, move them to SmartRecruiter. Now, we do realize that there are certain things that we need to deliver before that. For example, the integration between EC2, SmartRecruiter.
And I love that Rebecca on stage at Success Connect actually showed that, because earlier on this call, Shazad, you specifically mentioned it of like, look, anytime you buy something, you're also giving something up, right? In this case, right, if you look at recruiting, it's a well-integrated process, right? In EC, in the org chart, you click something, right? After someone is going through the recruiting process, you have the whole manage pending hire, right? It is tightly connected with Employee Central. So anytime you buy something externally, now people are like, oh, well, am I going to have struggles there with those integrations? So I do love that Rebecca actually showed that on stage, or at least part of that process. But
that's
yeah,
the whole
I think
value prop of us being SAP, right? That's what we deliver. Out of the box integration. You don't have to spend time and money on that. Your process will be pre-integrated as you deploy it. So to answer your question, we will continue to support SuccessFactors Recruiting till we have the last customer on the stack. However, we will not be delivering any new innovation on SuccessFactors Recruiting. Our new or all the innovative platform is SmartRecruiters. All innovation will be delivered to SmartRecruiters. We will provide guidelines and migration tools to make it easier for customers to lift and shift their existing SuccessFactors Recruiting installation, move them to SmartRecruiter. So that's what we are working towards for the next 6, 12, 18 months. SuccessFactors Recruiting will exist as is in its current state without any innovation till we have the last customer.
good. And onboarding stays
Onboarding stays as is. So onboarding is as is. It's our native solution that we've built from scratch. Because look, onboarding has two pieces, which a lot of people get confused. There's candidate onboarding and there's employee onboarding. So when you talk about candidate onboarding, it's lightweight candidate data collection. So for example, if you go to a Costco, Walmart, they recruit people and they want high level information like their W-2 information or certain things that they want to collect very quickly. That candidate onboarding happens on the recruiting side, and it has always been like that, right? So a Smart Recruiter already comes out of the box with that lightweight candidate data collection. But when it comes to employee onboarding, so now you've hired somebody and now you want detailed information. Now you want their dependents information. Now you want their previous payroll information. All of that becomes employee onboarding. That takes a ton more data intake, a lot more compliance, a lot more workflows, because now you're talking about laptops, giving out badges, security tags. There's more than just recruiting involved in there. That's why we are continuing with the onboarding solution that we have, because that solution provides you the whole holistic employee onboarding.
And that master data drives payroll.
And that master data drives payroll.
Got to tie him back, Todd.
Well, I mean, Shazad, again, I appreciate you sharing all this amazing info, because again, even though we're a PayrollBADIes podcast, again, a lot of our listeners probably were very curious about such a big purchase like, SmartRecruiters, and there's a lot of good questions that you helped answer.
Yeah.
But maybe
I say, I'm like, Shazad, you probably, with all the innovations that are coming out, I think it's safe to say that, all the boys and girls out there in the payroll world or the HR world are excited that presents came early for the holidays. And our Santa had something to do with it as well. So thank you for
Santa is all over the place when it comes to payroll, innovation.
Yeah.
Santa is pushing hard. He's the one who's carrying all those gifts.
It's a busy time.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Shazad, once again for joining us. I think our listeners and our customers are going to be super excited. Love the payroll chain, and continue to spread the word and evangelize payroll across the board as we always do. And for those of you that are listening, some of us will be at the GTM.com or Sales Kickoff in January. So if you're there, come find us. We'll be hopefully in our outfits. And otherwise, if you're not following us, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on LinkedIn. And keep checking us out for more episodes. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
And happy holidays from the Baddies.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to be back again soon.
We'll hold you to that.
Thank you, Shazad.
Yo, Baddies bring the clarity, got clarity in sight. We bring it payroll tech, making it right, spreading the word from S4 to the cloud. Baddies got the vision, making payroll proud. SAP payroll is king, we wearing the crown. Those companies starting with P, y'all know the name. Try to keep up, but it's not the same. Tech on lock, we automating the flow. No more headaches, we let that payroll glow. Innovating daily, got the future on deck. Payroll baddies, running it, showing respect. So all the payroll baddies, you know who you are. Join the cause, let's take it far. All you baddies out there, it's time to rise. Join the movement, no compromise. Keep your rock stars, we're classy, no charades. Payroll baddies, rain and fire, get paid. Payroll baddies, rain and fire, get paid. Yo, with baddies in the game. Payroll baddies, rain and fight. Yeah.